This company has a vile track record, and yet Liberals have constantly turned to this company.
Are not paying attention to the rules put in place.
Would you believe it? It's another Trudeau Liberal scandal. Today we're talking about McKinsey. This is a company where Justin Trudeau was friends with the guy who used to run the place. Dirty contracts. Pierre Poilievre talked about this the other day in the House of Commons.
We already knew that the Prime Minister liked to give tax dollars to his favorite consulting company, McKinsey, a company that helps supercharge drug overdose deaths as part of the opioid crisis. But today we learned from the Auditor General that it's far more money than thought. It was 200 million Canadian tax dollars for this one company. 90% of those contracts didn't follow government rules, 70% of them without a competitive process, 100% of them with the NDP voting in favor. Wow. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister commit here and now no more money for McKinsey?
Mr. Speaker, obviously the taxpayers deserve to get value for money, which is why we've continued to strengthen our oversight and the measures.
So he just goes on to babble. He's just flushing money over to his buddy at McKinsey there. I'm sure he's getting a nice big fat kickback for doing that.
The Auditor General's report proves that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost and the corruption. Most of the government's $200 million in contracts with their friends at McKinsey broke the rules. Liberals are tight with McKinsey. The former ambassador to China and head of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Panel came from McKinsey. The policy director to the former Minister of Public Services and Procurement was also McKinsey. This government serves McKinsey consultants and scandalizes Canadians. Why did Liberals repeatedly break the rules to benefit their friends at McKinsey?
The Honourable Minister. One question we haven't got an answer to is why are the Conservatives not showing today's great economic news?
Today, the Bank of Canada lowered interest rates.
Mr. Speaker, it's no surprise that Liberal minister will do everything to avoid talking about even mentioning McKinsey in the response. Minister, this question is about McKinsey. This company supercharged the opioid crisis, advised totalitarian regimes, held a corporate retreat down the road from a concentration camp. This company has a vile track record, and yet Liberals have constantly turned to this company, supercharging McKinsey's profits, and Liberals have turned to McKinsey to make critical decisions about this country's future. Now that they've finally been caught by the Auditor General, will this NDP Liberal government finally ban this vile company from government contracts? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Public Service and Procurement.
It may indeed be that our colleague was distracted when I spoke about the matter many times during the question period. I'm happy to repeat the same answer to the same question, which is the fact that we thank the Auditor General for her report. Her report contains recommendations and views that have been understood and heard in many other reports in the previous months.
The Auditor General released a report on this, just scathing, and she was questioned about this.
So it was complex when you think about the fact that we were able to bring in not only departments and agencies, but Crown corporations. So we looked at 97 contracts across 20 organizations, 10 Crowns and 10 departments and agencies, and recognizing that the Crowns have all their own rules that they follow on their own. But what we found is over the 12-year period in the audit that compliance with either the procurement rules or the ability of each organization to demonstrate that they had really generated the best value for money out of these contracts just varied. We found that 9 out of 10 departments had an issue with at least one contract. Most times it was more than one. And 8 out of 10 Crown corporations. So that's just a frequency that you shouldn't be seeing. It just means that there is this general presence where folks are not paying attention to the rules put in place to make sure that contracts are issued in a fair, transparent way and bringing the best value to Canadians.
Yeah. Just think about that. So 90% of departments have at least one violation, and 80% of Crown corporations. If this happened at any sort of normal workplace or whatever, someone would be fired for this. Like.
And when you talk about how contracts are given out, you also noted in your report that there was no open competition for these contracts. That would lead some to question whether or not there was perhaps ministerial involvement or perhaps bias in terms of awarding a contract. Did you see any evidence of that?
So there's a lot in that question there. I think we found that about 71% of the contracts that were issued were done in a non-competitive way, which is a high number when the default should really be to compete a contract to get the best value for money. When it came to non-competitive contracts, we found that the biggest issue was most often that organizations didn't justify why it needed to be a non-competitive contract and why choose McKinsey. What was it that was unique about their services that no one else could provide? When it comes to ministerial involvement, we actually didn't see any influence. We did see a minister involved in one contract, but it was done appropriately. When a contract is being issued on a non-competitive basis, there's a certain dollar threshold that the public service can authorize. So there was one contract that was over $4.5 million that was going to be issued in a non-competitive way. So the minister had to authorize it, and then Public Service and Procurement Canada and the department in question issued the contract as they were supposed to.
Okay, so that is what you found. Although what's interesting here is that there are rules that essentially govern federal contracting and procurement, rather. Are those rules failing? Are there gaps that need to be filled, given what you found here?
So I've been reflecting a lot on this based on recent reports and on this one about what is it about the procurement rules that are causing the behavior that we're seeing in the public service. Is it that the rules are so complex that people are trying to work around them in order to quickly issue contracts to meet their needs? Or is that there's so many rules that people just can't keep track of them all and are just not paying attention and accidentally not following them? I think the public service needs to figure out that root cause here. But for me, it isn't about adding more rules at this point. It's about taking a step back, making sure everybody knows that the rules are there and following the existing rules.
Okay.
They know what's going on. Let's get real. We're talking about Dominic Barton used to run the company, McKinsey, that all these contracts are going to. This is not rocket science to figure out what happened here.
Perhaps not new rules, but what about increased penalties or some type of admonishment if for whatever reason the proper rules are not met?
So there's already mechanisms in place in the federal public service for that. Delegations of authorities can be taken away from individuals or organizations if you feel that they're not meeting the requirements of the standards. But I also think that what we need to see here is better oversight by each individual organization, whether it be a Crown corporation or a department or agency. You should have oversight in looking at the compliance of your procurement processes, because the rules are meant to ensure fairness, transparency, and best value for money, but they only work when those rules are being followed.
Okay.
Now let's go down a little trip here on memory lane and just remember who Dominic Barton is, the guy who used to run McKinsey.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Congratulations to all today's graduates, and thank you for coming together for the 117th convocation of the University of Waterloo. I'm honored to congratulate Dominic Barton on becoming the university's 11th Chancellor. Dom, you've done a tremendous amount to make life better for people across our country. You've been a dedicated voice for Canadians, and your leadership has been vital in growing an economy that benefits everyone.
You've been vital for lacing my pockets with cash. Yeah, who calls someone
Dom?
Just remember what he just said there, Dom. He called him Dom.
University's 11th Chancellor. Dom, you've done a tremendous amount to make life better.
Now, you would call someone Dom if you're friends with them. You're not going to call some random guy whose name is Dominic Dom. You're going to call him Dominic. This is pretty much common knowledge across the entire planet. If you meet someone and their name's Steven, you're going to call him Steven. If you are friends with them, you're probably going to call him Steve. Same thing with like Richard, or calling them Rich, or David, or Dave. In this clip, we've got the Conservatives grilling Dominic Barton whether he's friends with Justin Trudeau.
Would you consider yourself a friend of the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau?
No. I consider myself having I'm not a friend. I have a professional relationship.
When did you first meet?
Excuse me, can I finish, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Oh, easy testy there, little Dominic. Oh, geez. He came prepared for this one.
I respect him. I think he respects me. I don't have his personal phone number, and I haven't been in a room alone with him.
Okay. Never been in a room.
Wait, what? Nobody asked if you're in a room alone with him.
Room alone with him.
Yeah.
All right. When did you first meet the Prime Minister? And when I'm referring to the Prime Minister, I'm always referring to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. When did you first meet him?
I think I met him in 2013, when I was actually going up to meet.
Before he was elected.
Before he was, going up, you know where I was going is to see Mr. Flaherty. And I was in the elevator.
This sounds like a liar. Let's all be real here. This sounds like someone making up a story.
And someone introduced him to me and said, this is Justin Trudeau. I didn't know what he looked like or where he was.
You're telling me you don't know who Justin Trudeau is? The son of Pierre Trudeau? Everyone in Canada who's been here for a decade or so knows who Justin Trudeau is, knows what he looks like. This guy, I have no idea who he is. I've heard of him, I think. I don't know. I've never been in a room alone with him. No, never.
The Prime Minister was not in any of the Growth Council meetings. Okay. Not one. Just like Prime Minister Harper, by the way.
Mr. Pickersgill was supporting the work of the Growth Council.
Mr. Pickersgill was actually saying that we, the committee, the whole committee, the 14 people, needed support with data.
So right. He was supplying that.
No, he provided people who supplied it.
Okay. So I have emails that I referred to earlier where he is in the process of pitching the government on work that McKinsey could do for the government, citing his work in supplying people and in otherwise supporting you for the Growth Council. So that is consistent, I think, with your testimony, although you said he wasn't physically present in the meetings.
It's not consistent with my testimony. What I said was I don't know what he was doing on that side.
You don't know what he was doing. That's another thing you don't know then. Fair enough?
I don't think that's a very fair comment.
But it's something you don't know, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And why should I know?
Okay.
This guy, when people talk like that, they got something to hide, man. That Dominic Barton stinks. He stinks of corruption.
McKinsey has been forced to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to compensate victims of the opioid crisis in the United States. However, to date, it has not paid out any compensation in Canada. Do you think that Canadians who have suffered as a result of the opioid crisis should be entitled to the same compensation from McKinsey that was paid out in the United States?
I think you should talk to McKinsey about that. That was a settlement in the U.S., and that was a settlement because
but Canadians were victims of the opioid crisis as well, right? So should Canadians
I think you need to talk to McKinsey about that.
You don't have an opinion on it, though? I mean,
I don't know the details. I don't know what role McKinsey played in that at all. I don't.
Even if you did,
the guy is such a liar, man. You just see him lying through his teeth.
Didn't know about it at the time. You weren't sort of interested in reading about it afterwards to understand, like, the fact that the company you had led had been involved in causing this massive public health crisis that killed, by now probably hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, there you go again, saying that we're responsible for the entire thing, and I totally disagree with that.
Well, I mean, like, you paid $600 million in compensation. That implies that there was some level of responsibility, surely. I mean, people don't generally pay that level of compensation if they're not. We
made a mistake. You make a calculation.
What was the mistake?
Can I just explain something first? In settlements, maybe you aren't familiar with how settlements work, but there's a huge amount of litigation that could occur. We could have been in the courts in the U.S. government for a decade.
But
what we decided to do...
You just said you made a mistake. So what was the mistake?
Hang on, I just want to finish what I was saying.
No, sir, it's my time. What was the mistake?
The mistake was actually not realizing what Purdue was doing in the system and as you said, stopping to work with that client. That's the mistake.
Right.
It's funny, suddenly the details come to his mind. Garnet Genuous here has pushed him. He pushed the buttons a bit, and now he's coming to life with some actual details.
What was Purdue doing that you didn't realize they were doing?
I don't have the detail on that, but my understanding is that they were playing a role in broadening the use of opioids in the U.S.
Right. But it was McKinsey that was advising them on how to turbocharge those sales. I mean, it was turbocharging sales were in the title of the project you did for them.
There's a lot of sensational words in there.
Sensational?
Because...
Tell us sensational to the families who have lost loved ones, sir. This isn't sensational. This is real life.
What I do know is in that settlement, there was nothing done unlawfully.
So that's Dominic Barton. And what else is interesting, if we look at this, just looking the guy up, former Canadian ambassador to China. If we think about our immigration and all the people coming in and the recent foreign interference that has happened, what countries are involved? India and China. Those are the highest immigration levels coming into Canada. Those are the two countries involved in the recent foreign interference with the unnamed MPs. I'm not saying Dominic Barton is involved. I'm just putting some breadcrumbs out there. Something funny is going on in Canada. Dominic Barton, known as Bao Damin, he served as the Canadian ambassador for the People's Republic of China in 2019 to 2021. Prior to this, Barton was a global managing director of McKinsey & Company, the global consulting firm. 2022, he was appointed as chairman to management board of Leapfrog Investments, a private investment firm that invests in high growth emerging markets. This just stinks of money. The whole thing is money. I think he's been working with Trudeau and China and India. This crap is all going to blow up at some point. I think he stepped down from McKinsey because his crap was starting to stink too bad and he just wanted to get away from it all. If you look through here, there's a big write-up of all his experience in China, and especially since we've already had the foreign interference from China, we've got the new releases. Something funny's going on in Canada. Does it involve Dominic Barton? Justin Trudeau? Who knows? I think once we get the MP names released, it will say a lot about what is going on here. Jumping over to my group, let's see what memes we've got today. You will never convince me this crap is normal. Never. I mean, this looks like someone from World of Warcraft. The one behind it all. Room is completely engulfed in flames. You can only save one. I mean, I got a cat next to me, so we all know which one I'm picking. We got this post here. Yeah, $9.49 for cottage cheese in BC. Price expensive around here. So Liberals are allowing crimes to continue. What happens when Canadians have to steal to feed their families? Jail? This is a good question. I don't know. There'll be some theft going on of food, but at some point I think the bunch of tables are just going to get flipped and the whole place is going to get flipped upside down. The bricks will be pulled right off the building. Then there'll be nothing the Liberals can do because there won't be enough police to stop millions of people just overrunning the entire government. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but if the Liberals keep pushing and pushing and pushing, they will get that result. It will happen. Does Stormy Daniels have to return the hush money since she didn't keep her mouth shut? Yeah, good question. I don't know, man. Card decline due to your extremist views on social media. Your monthly allotment of food credits has been revoked. Yes, this is what happens when you have a system like they have in China now, where they're just scanned everywhere, surveillance. It's not, yeah, no thanks. Most useless things of all time. This is hilarious. I looked this one up. It's true. There's a gate put here, and I don't know if there was planned to build a fence or something. They never did. Not sure if these ones are real, but unfortunately this one is real. Believe it or not, Justin Trudeau has his own private library that costs taxpayers a lot of money. Has a total of 4 books. 3 of them are coloring. Chrystia Freeland wears $740 designer sneakers while speaking to Canadians about affordability. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The big clown show. Remember, when something goes wrong in the circus, they send in the clown to distract the audience. Well, something has gone wrong in this circus, and the clowns are everywhere. The face you make when you use a food processor to cut your hair. Poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. That is 100% true. We have enough food on planet Earth to feed everyone who's starving. We just don't because greed. I've been told a picture's worth 1,000 words. Only one comes to mind here, Vancouver. So if you look there, that is not a cigarette. If I win the lottery, I won't tell anyone, but there will be signs. Full gas tank. Hi, I'd like a wake-up call. Carbon taxes and shutting down oil and gas jobs won't remove a single gram of CO2 from the air. Out of whack. More whack has been ordered. Here we've got a Frenched beef rib steak for $133.54. Okay. That's where we'll wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this new scandal. McKinsey, we already knew this was happening before. It's just coming to light now, and it's even more money. McKinsey, they just somehow won all these contracts, just like Christian Firth and GC Strategies just won all these contracts, even though they wrote the criteria for their own contracts and then won them. What happened with Christian Firth? Is he in jail yet? At this point, we're going to have to hire a whole bunch of detectives just to dig through all this garbage from the Trudeau Liberals. This is going to be a mess that's going to take a decade to clean up. I wonder if that's Trudeau's plan here. Is he just trying to wreck Canada as bad as possible, so when Poilievre comes in, he won't be able to clean it up, and then it'll somehow sway the public to go back over to the Liberals, and then he'll get his son ready to go for round 2 or round three of destroying Canada? Is that what's going on here? Rough times in Canada, but thanks for watching the end of the video here. We'll keep fighting for freedom. Be sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next one.